For the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, she got a rousing welcome and applause as Kamala Harris started by thanking her husband and also thanked Tim Walz. She narrated the story of her mother and how from her earliest years she was taught to be fearless and inculcated values in her. She was taught to never complain about justice but to do something about it. She said that she grew up learning about civil rights movement. At a young age, she had decided to be a lawyer as she believed that everyone had the right to safety and justice and no one should be made to fight alone. She said that we have to be together. Even in the court, she often said Kamala Harris for the people, and on behalf of Americans who work hard, she accepted the nomination to be the President of the United States of America. She said that these elections, we have the opportunity to move the new way forward as Americans. Also, she promised to be the president for all Americans and to put people above all party, a president who unites people and has common sense and can fight for the American people from the courthouse to the White House. She talked about a journey. She said that she stood up for the people. When Harris first ran for the Democratic nomination in 2019, her experience as a prosecutor was in many ways a liability as the party was moving to the left. These past few weeks, Harris and her allies have leaned heavily into that background, underscoring how the politics of the party have changed dramatically in the last few years. She also mentioned about Trump's explicit intent and his intentions about serving only himself. But she very categorically said, America, we are not going back and let Trump take over. And we are going to charge a new way forward, building up a new middle class, defining her presidency, creating opportunity economy where everyone has a chance to succeed. She mentioned about a support to abortion and reproductive rights, climate change, gun safety and protecting democracy. She also spoke about the ceasefire deal in Gaza and her support to Ukraine. And for more, we have Caroline joining us from Washington on this. Well, Caroline, the most electrifying speech there. Kamala Harris accepted the Democratic Party's nomination formally today, the final day of the convention. She outlined a vision and policy agenda for America. What were the highlights?
Well, so Kamala Harris is still speaking and talking in particular about foreign policy, talking about how she will always continue the US policy of supporting Israel and also fighting against groups such as Hamas, also against the threat from Iran. And she was saying that a lot of these foreign actors want Trump to be in power because they think that he would be an easier person to have to contend with in the White House. Overall, though, her messaging was very strong. She's been talking about how she views herself as someone that will be a president for the people, that she will fight for every person in America, whether she agrees with their views or not. That's a theme that we've heard throughout the night with her experiences as a prosecutor, where she stood up for justice and defended numerous people. She had a story to tell about why she became a prosecutor, which included talking about a friend who was abused and then came to live in her house. She said that was one of the reasons why I became a prosecutor. That's the kind of person that I am. She also talked about her competitor in this race for President Donald Trump. She said in a lot of ways he's not a serious person, but the consequences of allowing him back into the White House again would be very serious.
All right.
And she spoke about, what we've seen from Trump already, particularly around
all right, Caroline, just stay with us while
important it is to her.
Caroline, just stay with us while we go back to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago live.
Let us show each other and the world who we are and what we stand for. Freedom, opportunity, compassion, dignity, fairness, and endless possibilities. We are the heirs to the greatest democracy in the history of the world. And on behalf of our children and our grandchildren and all those who sacrificed so dearly for our freedom, and liberty. We must be worthy of this moment. It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith, to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals we cherish, and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American. So let's get out there, let's fight for it, let's get out there, let's vote for it, and together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
Kamala Harris there speaking about how to write the new chapter for America. Caroline is with us. Caroline, freedom, opportunity and endless possibilities. Kamala Harris mentioned it was their turn to fight for the ideals America cherishes. Quite a positive atmosphere at the convention day for today. Give us the takeaways from the entire convention, for the theme being For Our Future.
So yes, we have just heard from Kamala Harris there now, who is the official nominee for the Democratic Party to go forward and compete in this presidential election. And she really framed it tonight as this being a fight that will define the future of the United States, that will define the future for all the voters in the US. She spoke about how she will be a president for all people and not just some of them. She contrasted that with how she views her competitor Donald Trump, who she said is only in the fight for himself. He's only protecting other rich people, other billionaires, whereas she will protect all people even if she doesn't share their views. She spoke in particular very strongly about her time as a prosecutor. She referenced why she became a prosecutor, because of hearing the story from a friend who'd been abused, who she then got to stay in her home. She spoke very strongly about her mother, who was an immigrant from India, who came to the United States for an education and ended up staying. She said how she learned from her mother about protecting women's health. And of course, we know Kamala Harris has been fighting for women's rights, women's protective rights in the last few years as her time in office in the White House as vice president. She spoke in particular about the threat of Donald Trump being back in the White House again, if that were to happen, in reference to, abortion rights and how those have been repealed across the US. And she said that's something that she will strongly stand against. She also spoke about the border. That is a hot topic in the United States and has been a theme in particular of Republicans over the last few weeks and months. She said she will, if Congress passes it, she'll put back the bipartisan border bill. That helps in some ways to strengthen the security and the patrols to help people at the border. But she said at the same time, we will still be a country accepting immigrants. And that's where the policies definitely differ among Democrats. She also spoke about the concerns of gun violence. We heard on the stage in particular on Thursday night from Gabby Giffords, who is a very famous victim of gun crime. At the time, she was thought to have died and then potentially not be able to speak or even walk afterwards. She was there on the stage tonight speaking, and it gave a very emotional moment for people watching to be able to see her speak and talk about the importance of protecting against gun violence. Harris also talked about the freedom to vote. She spoke in particular about laws she'd like to pass to ensure that all Americans continue to have freedom to vote, and that in reference there to supporting minorities, particularly in the United States. She said ultimately, we're a nation of immigrants. We need to fix the border issues. We need to fix the economy. That is something that she spoke about, in particular, helping through policies to help the middle class. She said lifting up more than 1 million Americans with what she will decide to do. You know, she had a very serious message in some ways, but also there was some hope and some joy that she brought across. And we heard that from previous speakers throughout the week. People talking about how this is a turning point in the United States, how they now have hope because they have seen Kamala Harris in practice. She has the experience and they believe in her as someone that can do the job and bring the US into essentially better times. But she really left tonight, you know, showing everyone on that stage and in the room watching her, and the millions watching, you know, on the television and around the world, who she is as a person, and some hint about the kind of policies that she might have if she was to be the president. That's something that's been lacking so far, but we've certainly heard some of it tonight, and with a very strong message.
Right, she touched very, very important topics there, Caroline. Also, the convention wrapped nearly on time. Clearly, Harris wanted people to be awake to see her.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the last few nights, Monday through Wednesday, some of the events did go late. That does tend to happen at these conventions, but they were particularly late on some of the nights where we heard, for instance, from Biden, of course, the president, from Obama and Michelle Obama, Barack and Michelle Obama. So, you know, that really pushed events very late, particularly for the East Coast, where I'm based in Washington, D.C., because we are an hour ahead of where the convention is taking place in Chicago. So, yes, I'm sure that that was a consideration for the Harris campaign to make sure that they were on time. We did squeeze in all the events we were expecting, though. We heard from Pink, the artist, the singer, who sang on stage with her daughter. That was quite an emotional event. We also saw a group known as the Chicks. They're formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, also a very strong women's group who have spoken in the past about women's rights. So you can see the theme there of why she was on stage. Also a host of actresses, a lot of Black American female actresses on stage promoting Kamala Harris. And we also had a number of course, politicians speaking about their experience of Harris and why they think she is absolutely the strong choice to be president.
All right, Caroline, thank you so much for all that update and information from there.